didn't even have an internet connection when we launched because it was expensive and I was broke.
Naukri.com got the name really right.
Let's try a Hindi name. Is Naukri taken? And he said, it's available. I said, just book it. Now, when that happened, I went to friends and said, we're launching a website on Naukri, and people said, what a lousy name. Naukri, Knocker, it's so down market.
Do you think profitability and road to profitability has taken a center stage around funding?
At the first round, you can still sell an idea and a dream. But by the time the second round comes about, you should have achieved something.
How did that core team came into existence as well? Because I think that would have been a critical part of your journey.
Penny dropped and I said, why don't we just take jobs from newspapers around the country, rehash them in our own words and put them on our website and see what happens.
Being the VC, being an investor, what were you looking in founders? What were those couple of traits? Lovely to have you, Sanjeev, with us. When we were conceptualizing Humanscope in the initial set of speakers, that who do we really want to get? And unanimously, everyone in the team was that, we need to have Sanjeev on the show.
Thank you so much.
We really need to get his inputs on how he sees the entire landscape of people, work, now the whole investment and entrepreneurship layer that's happening in the country, also what's changing on AI, but amidst all of this, where is the human aspect of it? How do we retain that? And some of those views is what we wanted to carry to our readers and consumers across our channels.
Very kind of you to say these things.
So I'm going to start off with the initial part and, now a lot of that story is out of Naukri. Probably when I started tracking, some of the initial years of your journey weren't that available in public domain. Today, some of that information is available. But if you could just go back to that whole aspect of generation of the idea of Naukri.com. And then how it advanced and how did it fast track? So if you could just give us a bit on that journey and then we'll get going on some of the other aspects.
Well, the idea came from a very simple observation which I made in 1990. I was in my last job. It was I was in marketing. I was working on the brand Horlicks. I was at a company called HMM, which is now called GlaxoSmithKline. Of course, GlaxoSmithKline has since sold the Horlicks brand to Lever.
Yeah.
But I was in that company. And there were 7 or 8 of us junior marketing executives who would sit in an open hall. And because it was an open hall, I could see what people were doing and I could hear what they were saying. And I observed that every time the office copy of Business India would come in, everybody would read it from the back. And that is because there were 35 to 40 pages of appointment ads at the back of Business India in those days. It was the number one appointment ad medium for managers. And I found that interesting behavior, that you're not reading the articles, you're just reading the appointment ads first. And these are people who are working for a multinational. They're not looking for a job. They're quite happy where they are. They're working, they want to be. So if you wanted FMCG, you wanted marketing, you wanted MNC, and you wanted Delhi, you were probably in the best company you could be in, right? There wasn't a better company. And so they're not looking for jobs, yet they look at the job ads.
Yeah.
And I found that interesting behavior. And then I used to hear them talking on the phone. It was all landlines those days, no mobile phone. And every week, 1 or 2 or 3 headhunters would call up and try and headhunt one or the other of my colleagues. And every time it was a different headhunter with a different job in a different company. And these jobs were never advertised. Not in Business India, not in Times of India, not in Economic Times. And that's when I realized that what appears in print as an appointment ad is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There's a much larger market below the surface, which is being addressed by recruitment firms, perhaps by internal company recruiters, perhaps just old CVs on the file, perhaps direct applications. And jobs are a high interest category of information. That's why people read Business India from the back.
Yeah.
So this was 1990, but I didn't know what to do with this insight. So I quit my job and started our company. We began to do salary surveys, some trademarks, databases, some teaching, training, some consulting. Whatever came my way in order to survive.
Wow.
And then I saw the internet for the first time in 1996 at an exhibition in Pragati Maidan.
Wow.
And I got intrigued. At that time, of course, there were only 14,000 internet accounts in the country. They just come into the country. Maybe a couple of 100,000 users with shared accounts. And penny dropped, and I said, why don't we just take jobs from newspapers around the country,
Wow.
rehash them in our own words, and put them on our website and see what happens, which is what we did. We used to get 29 newspapers and magazines from around the country, those that carried appointment ads. And we had a couple of data entry guys. They would input those jobs, that information into a data structure, which we had designed. And we began to upload them on the internet. And our promise was 1,000 jobs at minimum, anytime, at all times on this website.
Wow.
And 1,000 was a large number in those days. Of course, it's small now, but it was a large number in those days. And sure enough, traffic began to come without us having to advertise. We didn't have money to advertise anyway. We were broke. But traffic began to come because the value prop was very simple and clear and powerful. All the jobs published anywhere in the country in one place. So if you're sitting in Delhi and the vacancy ad came out in Hindu in Chennai, it would be here.
Right.
You would not otherwise have access to that newspaper.
Yeah.
If it came out 15 days ago and you missed it, it is still here because we keep it live for a month. So traffic began to come. And once traffic began to come, we began to generate applications for companies who were advertised in the papers. And the recruitment community began to hear about us because people would write in the cover notes, covering letters, that I saw your ad on Naukri.com. And they would inquire, what are you guys doing? And we'd say, just taking jobs from newspapers, it's public service. Then what happened after 6 months is we got a call saying, you had taken my jobs earlier, and I got a good response, but I've got 6 jobs that are not advertised. Can you put them up? And we began to charge money for that.
Wow.
And so gradually we transitioned to paid listings. And that was a simple job listing board. Around the year 2000, we launched this in Naukri in April 97. Around the year 2000, we raised venture capital from ICICI Venture. When that happened, we invested in technology, servers, some marketing, a lot of sales, new offices, and so on. And that's when the company really grew. So, and we listed in 2006. And around that time, early 2000, is when Hitesh joined.
Yeah.
And he made a big difference to the company.
Yeah. What intrigues me is, and I say this out loud in the industry as well, that, Naukri.com got the name really right. And till date, if you ask me, one of the business moats around Naukri's business model is just the name. I'm sure there's a lot of things that the team does to put this in right context. But I think the name just makes a huge difference. In fact, I was having a discussion with Anupam Mittal of Shadi.com when I was interviewing him, and we were talking about Shadi.com's name advantage. How did that name come up? Whose idea was it, Sanjeev?
So I'll tell you how it happened. When I saw the internet for the first time, and I began to sort of explore how to build a site. One of the things we had to do was register a domain name. Of course, in those days, the domain name registrars were all in the US.
Yes.
And you couldn't use Indian credit cards online because, so I had to call up my brother and do it. My brother, was a prof at UCLA, living in the US. Yes. And I rang him up and I said, listen, I want to register a domain name. Can you, it's all on the phone, right?
Yeah.
And he says, can you go to the domain name registrar? So it was internic.net in those days. And he went to the website and he said, okay, what domain name do you want?
Yeah.
So I said, Jobs India, taken by somebody else. India Jobs, taken by somebody else. Employment India, taken by somebody else. India Employment, taken by somebody else. Recruitment India Recruitment. Just 6-7 obvious names. Somebody had taken it. It was probably some NRI squatting on it. Not that there was a website, just the domain names were taken.
Yeah.
So I was quite disappointed. So I said, okay, let me think. I'd called him in the morning, early in the morning, time difference and all. I thought and thought and thought. Then at night, I rang him up and on impulse I said, let's try a Hindi name. Is Naukri taken? And he said, it's available. I said, just book it. Right? Now, when that happened, I went to friends and said, we're launching a website on Naukri, and people said, what a lousy name. Naukri, Knocker, it's so down market. And who the hell wants, in any case, a Hindi domain name will not work. And I said, no, man, it's cool, it's got zing, it's different.
Yeah.
It's from the left field, it'll work. And so we went with it. And that's how it's out of the domain name.
Yeah.
If Jobs India had been available, I'd have gone with Jobs India. Let me put it that way.
There are two things I say to a lot of people, Sanjeev. One is, if Naukri had not picked up the name Naukri, I personally feel it's a big moat and worked on Naukri's advantage. Second is, would the recruitment space in this country would have operated differently or looked differently if Naukri wouldn't have come into existence?
देखो ऐसा नहीं है. It's a great name.
Yes.
It was not my first choice, but we got lucky. It was not the first name I thought of.
Yeah.
Right? But we got lucky. It was, the sixth or seventh name I thought of, but this whole Hindi thing occurred to me because the other names were taken. Now, having said that, if we had all the jobs in one place, traffic फिर भी आता. Because the value prop was not the name, it was the jobs. But yes, Naukri added to it. Easy to remember.
Yes.
Naukri, 6 letters only, short. It communicates clearly what the site is about.
It connected with people. It is a everyday term, like, right, that ki, haya Naukri dhund raha hu.
Exactly.
So it is part of everyone's life.
Well, more so in North India than in South India. But it is understood in South India also.
Yes. Yes, agree. And while all of this was happening, Sanjeev, did you research as part of your plan that, there is a monster.com globally or some of the other job portals?
No, I had never heard of any other job site anywhere in the world when we launched this.
Wow.
So I had just launched it on a customer insight that अखबारों से नौकरियां ले लो, इश्तिहार से, and put it in, see what happens. Right? And traffic began to come. So actually, we didn't even have an internet connection when we launched because it was expensive and I was broke. So I used to take floppy disks to a friend's house where he had internet, and at night I would update the site. So I had not even seen any other website because, and it's only 6 months after launching that we got an internet connection.
Wow.
When we felt we could afford it.
Wow. It didn't stop you from dreaming to build one of the largest internet companies from India then?
We didn't have those dreams.
Yes.
वो तो in hindsight, अब हो चुका है. At that time, we had a simple ambition that if we can get 1,000 companies to pay us 500 rupees to list a job every month, that's 5 lakh rupees a month. That's 60 lakhs a year. That's about 5 times the revenue that the company has done till now ever from all our salary, service and other stuff. And if that happens in 3 years, then we have succeeded.
Wow.
So we had a simple sales target. Okay, vision kuch nahi thi. So, and we were breaking even. I mean, see, companies that have sales targets break even. Companies that have vision make a loss. Vision baad mein aaya.
Wow. And a lot of the early pitches that startups would make nowadays, people would ask, what's your vision and is it big enough and, are you going after? Do you think that narrative is right to evaluate, or you feel that in hindsight these are interesting?
I think it's good to have a dream.
Yeah.
Because that keeps you motivated.
Yeah.
But on a day-to-day basis, you better be executing for today. आज कितनी सेल होगी, इस हफ्ते कितनी सेल होगी, इस हफ्ते मैं क्या करूँगा.
Now, I've always believed, I think the way you were able to map your sales aspiration with the product, because at the end of it, you need to monetize, and you need to monetize keeping in mind that, it needs to be sustainable. So whatever ratio of people on the street, because they were on the street that time, is matching with the math that the business model needs to push out.
So I'll tell you, in the beginning, we were selling through direct mail. हम चिट्ठियाँ भेजते लोगों को. We'd send them letters, physical letters, and they would courier us checks with the job information.
Wow.
So when we raised venture capital in April 2000, after bootstrapping for 3 years, we were doing 3 lakhs a month sales. And we were breaking even.
Yeah.
We raised venture capital, and usi samay, just before that, Hitesh had joined. After 3-6 months of trying out stuff, Hitesh said, why don't we hire 4 salespeople? And instead of direct mail, let's go, and meet prospective clients. So we said, yeah, sure, good idea. So Hitesh hired 4 salespeople in Delhi. And we learned something very simple and interesting and useful, that the total cost of the average salesperson was 22,000 rupees a month, which included salary, sales commission, conveyance, mobile phone bill, all overheads, this is office rent, air conditioning, depreciated cost of computer, सब कुछ मिला मिलूँ के 22,000 रुपये महीना था. And within 6 months, the average salesperson was generating revenue of 50,000 rupees a month.
Wow.
And there is no variable cost. It doesn't cost you extra money to put one extra job on Naukri. So he was essentially making a surplus of 28,000 rupees a month, headed north, because the 50,000 ka number was increasing every month.
Yeah.
And when we observed that, we said we had found what we call our repeatable, profitable unit, which is keep on adding more and more salespeople till the last salesperson does not break even on his or her cost. And which is what we did. We, at the end of 2 years from that observation, we had 240 salespeople in 11 cities around the country.
Wow.
So we would go into a city, we take 3-4 seats in the business center, which is today's day and age called a co-working space. Us samay they were called business centers, and they weren't as large and glamorous as the ones today. But business center होते थे, हमने 4 desk लिए, and वहाँ पे sales team लगाई, and we gave them a target. By within 6 months, you have to break even on your own cost. And when that happened, we take up an office and move out of the business center. And that's how we began. And in 2 years' time, we had multiplied sales by 35x and 35x, and were breaking even once again on a much larger revenue base. And that's how the sales team came about.
And you didn't need any other funding round after that because you're self-funding.
No. Actually, we were self-funded. We didn't need it, but we tried to raise it.
Okay.
But we failed. So around 2003, we said, let's go.
This is after the dot-com bubble had happened.
The dot-com bust had happened.
Yeah.
And therefore money was not available. And we said, let's raise some. And we didn't get it. But we were breaking even, so we were okay.
So raising was actually more like plan B because you were anyways going ahead and driving.
We were nervous. We wanted to raise purely as an insurance sort of scheme, insurance plan, कि अगर कुछ हो गया. You see, don't forget, April 2000 में dot-com bust हुआ. November, December 2000 में IT telecom bust हुआ.
Yeah.
And September 2001 में 9/11 हुआ. So there were these cataclysmic events. And we were very nervous. Okay, and while we were breaking even, we said, let's raise some money anyway. But wo raise ho nahi paya.
Got it. Whoever lost on that opportunity lost a big chunk of upside.
That's life.
That's life. So how did then the investing journey start? Because I think the initial part of success of Naukri also contributed to that journey as well.
Absolutely. Naukri is the foundation on which everything has been built.
Yes.
The Naukri cash flow, profits, brand, sales, that has laid the foundation for everything else. Whether it was going public and raising money, whether it was launching Jeevan Sathi 99-acre Shiksha, or starting the investing business.
Interesting.
Right? And अब हुआ क्या कि we went public in October 2006. Now, when you go public, you file something called a DRHP with SEBI. DRHP is a draft red herring prospectus. So DRHP होता है, SEBI approves it, then it becomes an RHP, then you go public.
Yeah.
Now, in the DRHP and RHP, which is the draft red herring prospectus and the red herring prospectus, there's one little section which says objects of the issue. Why are you doing a public issue?
Yeah.
आप public क्यों जा रहे हो? So now I was, Amrish, me, the senior management was all deeply involved in preparing the DRHP alongside the bankers and lawyers. So this section I had written myself, and I put 5-6 bullet points there. Number one, we want our shareholder agreement to fall away. 2, we want the investor to get an exit. 3, we want the ESOP to have value. 4, we want our stock to have currency. 5, we want our, to be in a different strategic space as compared to others. That we are the only listed company. So when I wrote that, the banker said, hey, what is this? This will never get cleared by SEBI. I said, but it's the truth. He said, never mind. We will write the truth also, but it'll be a different truth. So they wrote 4-5 bullet points, which said organic growth, inorganic growth, general corporate purposes. ऐसे 3-4 point दे दिए. But the truth is, we didn't need the money for any of that. We wanted to go public.
Yeah.
We didn't need the money. We wanted a listing. Okay, for all these reasons, right? And IPO हो गया. All went well. But we didn't need the money for these purposes.
So पैसा आ गया, then
and every month the money is adding up in the bank, so you are profitable.
Yeah.
So every quarter the auditors, which is Pricewaterhouse, would come to our board meeting and say use of IPO proceeds nil. Okay. And after 2 or 3 quarters, the board said, "Yeah, what is this? You have to use the IPO proceeds for the purposes you said. Otherwise, there's a non-compliance." So we wondered what to do, and we said, okay, the only thing we can do is inorganic growth, but there's nothing worth buying in the market. This is 2007.
Yeah, 2007 we didn't have so many options in the industry.
So, but there were plenty of enough people trying to do startups, and there was not enough venture capital.
Yeah.
So we went to the board and said, look, investing in startups is also inorganic growth. And they said, okay, good idea. And that's how we began to invest. It was a need for compliance that we began to invest. And then as we invested more and more, we began to see some success, and then it became a big activity in the company.
Wow. Now, when you look back, do you think that was the right way to go about it? Or because you already had Naukri, the allied part of services could have been the business that you would have also, because you would have been tempted that, we have the same customer base. Now we are selling Naukri. We have the foundation. Maybe we just add a few more things as part of it.
Well, look, that was an option, but we felt we knew the internet. So are we an HR company or are we an internet company? Are we a classifieds company or, what are we?
Yes.
Right? And I think we concluded that we are an internet classifieds company. So we launched 99 Acres and Jeevan Sathi and Shiksha.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to invest, we said we'll invest in internet businesses. Because we are an internet classifieds company. The core is classifieds, but non-classifieds we'll invest outside.
Yeah. I always saw InfoEdge as a life stage company that, career is one big aspect of your life, and throughout your entire life you would need jobs. Jeevan Sathi takes care of finding the right partner. Shiksha was on the education side. So the pivotal moments in your life journey, maybe all those points could have been connected.
Well, that's not the way we did it or looked at it. We simply said, अखबार में कौन से ads आते हैं? That means there's revenue there.
Yes.
Can we get a share of it? So अखबार में matrimonial ads आते हैं, so we should do matrimonial side. अखबार में real estate ads आते हैं, we should do a real estate side. अखबार में education के ads आते हैं, we should do an education side. We were following the money.
Got it.
We were not chasing life stages.
Interestingly, I used to see it like that, maybe how smart that, we are looking at all the life stages around that. But I think following the money is such a, simple.
We are businessmen first.
Yes. So I think that's a very great insight as well. Sometimes, when you look at the larger piece, just follow the simple stuff that could give you the right direction.
Yeah, we said there's revenue here. Can we get a certain percentage? If we can, we are financially successful.
Yeah, yeah. So Sanjeev, when all these extensions happened as part of InfoEdge then, and you had taken that call of that this is going to be an internet classifieds company, then how did you go about creating teams? Because, at the end of it, you needed hands on different. So how did that core team came into existence as well? Because I think that would have been a critical part of your journey.
So I think the team, large parts of it, were put in place before the IPO. I mean, long before the IPO.
Yeah.
So Hitesh joined in the year 2000 before we raised venture capital.
Yes.
Right. Vibhor Sharma, who was still with the company, and although he's now doing investing, and his last operating role was as CTO of InfoEdge. He joined in the year 2001. Okay. So people joined early, and I think, what's a good entrepreneur and founder has to be a personal magnet for talent. Simply because, people have to believe in you. People have to believe what you're doing. Believe in what you're doing. People have to be convinced that you're doing the right thing, and you have to create trust across the table. Because when you don't have money, right?
That's all that you can give.
You gotta sell people an idea, a future, a vision, and then share the wealth.
Yeah. Which I feel founders know about it, they read about it, but actually doing and walking that path is, I feel, a much harder way.
That is true, but देखो जब आपके पास पैसे नहीं है ना,
हाँ जी,
आपको talent चाहिए, you will do these things. You will give stock.
Yeah.
You will try to be a personal magnet for talent. You will sell your vision and your idea.
No, absolutely. It happened with us, sir, as well, that, as part of People Matters journey as well, where we were able to exit some of the ESOPs, a lot of people were able to complete their dreams of, paying their EMIs on their loans or buying a house, some of these other. So it gives a great amount of satisfaction to the entrepreneur as well, that, I've been able to create wealth for everyone and not just for myself.
That is correct. You want everybody to share.
Yeah. And that's just a great feeling as the journey progresses as part of it as well. And if some of them stick with you for a long tenure that you just talked about, I think it's just great way of, progressing and doing multiple things on top of it as well, because you have a core set of people now in place who you could trust actually.
Correct.
And building on top of that.
That is correct.
What has changed as part of, let's say, the last 25 years? What has changed in the job scenario as per you? And I know, now a lot of your time goes into the investing part of things, but if you were to now sit back and say that, 25 years, this has changed in the industry.
I think a few things. I think technology has changed substantially, and it continues to change.
Yeah.
It's evolving rapidly. Second is, I think social media has made a difference. Third is, there's been a generational change, several generations. I mean, 25 years, I'd say, been 2 or 3 generations. So people have changed. And therefore, if you see the aspirations or the attitudes to work of the very young people today versus the very young people, say, 30 years ago, it's quite different.
Yeah.
I would say AI has come in. So these 3-4 things have changed, and that has made a big difference. Of course, the economy has grown. New industries have come up. So new kinds of jobs have come up. So ये 3-4-5 चीजें change हुई हैं.
Agree. And I think all organizations need to adapt with that change as well. How does Naukri look at it? That how do you adapt to some of these changes where people are saying that, the very nature of workplace and the job is going to change as well?
So I think we follow our customers and clients.
Okay.
And we are constantly in touch, and we figure out what they're saying, what they're doing, and they tell us what to do, and we do it. So it's not as if we come out with something without first figuring out whether this will work with the customer or will work with the client. So we are very, very, very customer and client led. We are innovative.
Yeah.
We invest a lot in technology, But fundamentally, the priorities on what to do first and what to do second depends on what we believe our customers will want.
Yeah. Now I must share with some of our viewers as well that there was this thing in the market always that anyone could reach out to Sanjeev or Hitesh if they needed something, and I've heard many a times you would answer personally, address to things even when you didn't have to. You had such a large team, but you would get it because customer centricity was so core to build.
That is still there. I
That is still
always
there.
try and reply to any mail I get,
Yeah.
or any WhatsApp I get.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm out of operations now. I no longer look after operating businesses, so I don't address the problem myself.
Yeah.
But at least connect the customer or the client with the right person in the organization.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a great input that while tech and some of these things will evolve, what will not change is customer wanting that support, or customers wanting the value out of what you're doing.
Yeah, people don't change. People change, but they don't change.
From a funding standpoint, of course, when you were trying to raise, there was a complete different scenario, and now is a complete different scenario where almost now we are in a bit of a funding winter, if I may call it, for last, and that winter is not yet ending. But before we had a bull run.
I don't think there's a funding winter.
Okay.
I mean, good companies, there's no shortage of.
There's no shortage of funding.
No shortage. I think what has changed is this careless funding has gone away. So investors are much more discerning. They're slightly slower. They take the time, but it's fine.
Do you think profitability and road to profitability has taken a center stage around funding?
I think at the first round, you can still sell an idea and a dream. But by the time the second round comes about, you should have achieved something. And the rounds are slightly smaller. Valuation is slightly lower. But people want to see delivery to promise slightly faster.
Interesting. So I want to now switch to this whole aspect of being the VC and being an investor. And you've taken some of the big bets around Policy Bazaar, Zomato, some of these other organizations, which are of course the front runners when it comes to names. I'm sure there are a lot of other investments that you and InfoEdge has done. What were you looking in founders? What were those couple of traits?
I think the first thing we look at is that will the customer or the client want what this team is trying to do or trying to sell? And we look for some evidence of that लोगों को पसंद आएगा जो ये कर रहे हैं. In the case of Zamato, it was pretty clear that they're doing something good and people want what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because traffic आ रहा था, and the traffic was growing without these guys having to advertise. At the same time, while there were other restaurant listing sites, these are the only guys with all the menu cards. And we were using the site, that's why we liked it. So I recall the first time I met Deepinder in June 2010, I asked him, idea kahan se aaya? Where did you get the idea of putting up all the menu cards? Because that's what was different about Zamato. Okay, they had all the menu cards. He said, look, I was working in Bain Consulting in Delhi, in Gurgaon. There were maybe 50, 60 of us in the office. And office, had a cafeteria that would not serve food. Now, consulting hours were long.
Yeah.
So you invariably ended up eating 2 meals at the office. And most people in Bain were young, they were male, they were single, and they were mostly living away from their hometowns. Which basically meant
they
wouldn't get food from home.
Yeah.
Right? And to make life easy for the office staff, the admin team had collated all the menu cards of all the restaurants that will deliver to that location, 80 of them, and put them in a file folder for the benefit of the employees. And Deepinder said, 1 baje, it's a huge problem because, सब लोग आते हैं एक time पे, line लग जाती है, there's one file, and you wait for your turn, 10 minutes लगते हैं, 15 minutes लगते हैं, then you get 30 seconds, you decide what you want to order, you place the order, and then you go away and then come back in 1 hour when the food is delivered and pay, and then you eat. So So this is very, very cumbersome process. Plus, I've got deadlines to meet. I'm stressed. My boss is in my head. I got my presentation. I got to make my slides. All of those things. So he said, to make my life easier, I came in on Saturday, Sunday and scanned all the menu cards and put them up on my personal page in the office internet. So within 3 days, the IT infra guy came to me and said, man, what have you done? Why is 95% of our internal traffic going to your page? And that's when the penny dropped, and I realized that, listen, there's something here. So that just like I had observed that aggregation of jobs will have value.
Yeah.
Deepinder had come to the conclusion that aggregation of menu card will add value. People want it. And he said, that's when I realized that I should just go and do it. Not just 80 that come to my office, but I should do it for all over Delhi. And he began to go out on weekends to restaurants picking up the delivery menu cards. And when there were 800, he launched the site. And immediately traffic began to come.
So what quality of Deepinder you would say that most excited you?
I think clarity of thought, I think customer insight. Okay. I think he was, pretty clear this is what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. Okay. He was onto something. He was onto something and he was committed to it.
Yeah. One thing I've also observed is both with Policy Bazaar as well as Zomato, you invested big right at the start.
Actually, no.
No?
Policy Bazaar, we invested 20 crores, which is big for those days.
Yes.
But Zamato, we invested only 4.7 crores in the first round. Not that big.
Okay. But you kept on investing on each round.
In the first 4 rounds, we were solo in Zamato.
Yeah. Yeah, because that commitment was always there. When I was interviewing YD Yashish, we were in Qatar, and he was telling me that I always had that at the back of my mind that Sanjeev and InfoEdge team is there with me to sort of always back me for every bet that I was going to take.
So it's not as if it was guaranteed.
Of course,
we would evaluate it and we would discuss and. When you're at an early stage, there's always a gray area. There's always yes, no, 50-50. So it's not but yeah, we eventually, stayed a long time.
Yeah. And is that a philosophy from your side that, if we are going to back a founder or a brand, then of course with its own calculations of, whether how deep we want to go, not go, but we are going to play the long term. We're not looking at a short term.
There is no choice.
Isn't it?
If you're investing in early stage startups in India, you have no choice but to play the long game. क्योंकि इंडिया में strategic sales होते नहीं हैं उतने, where you sell a company and for a lot of money, okay, बहुत कम होते हैं. Right? The big sort of exit you get is when a company goes public. Now, IPO may talk about a certain caliber of company and you talk about at least 10-12 साल. So company बनाने में ना 10-12 साल लगते हैं. And if you're going in at the foundation stage, then you have to stay 10, 12, 14 years. So now we went into Policy Bazaar in 2008. 2025, 17 साल बाद we are still there. We went into Zamato in 2010. 14 साल बाद we are still there.
Wow, that's a really long time.
Yeah, it is. You got to think long term.
Yeah. But are today's founders, majority of them thinking like that this is going to be a 15-20 year marathon and this is not a 4-year sprint?
I think you look at the past track record of other startups.
Yeah.
Right. It tells you clearly that समय लगता है.
But वो awareness है क्या in the community? Because nowadays, of course, we are very lucky that India has now got a lot many people who are wanting to become entrepreneurs, taking that risk, doing things on their own. But that this is a marathon, this is not a sprint.
I think enough people are beginning to understand it, because if you look at the role models and case histories,
yes,
they all are of people who done over 10-20 years.
What, as per you, is the major reason for startups in India to succeed? So the ones that don't succeed, what are some of those things that...
So I think the major reason why startups succeed is the founding team. People. It's all about people. If you have great people, you have a higher chance of success.
That's where that founder being the magnet to get that initial set of talent becomes so important.
Absolutely.
If you can put a winning team out over there, half your battle is
That is true.
done.
And absolutely true.
Wow. And do you think we have enough platforms for people to find? Because what naturally happens is, because मैं इसको जानता हूँ, ये मेरा दोस्त है, तो you start a company. And often I have seen those kind of narratives go wrong as well, because you are a friend doesn't mean you're going to be equally passionate about building a company.
But that's normal human tendency, that you will work with people who you like, whether it's chemistry, especially in the beginning. It's not as if you'll recruit people you don't know.
Yeah.
Your first team will be people you already know, who you worked with, who are your friends, who you studied with, who you're in your neighborhood. That's normal. You initially start working with friends. At the end of the day, Dipinder and Pankaj were colleagues at Bain. They were both from IT Delhi.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at us, I was always doing business with friends first.
Do you feel, because in the Valley, they actually have a lot of these forums where you can go and find co-founders, look at what is your strength, find what's missing and things around that. Do you think this is the India model that works better?
I think really to work together in a startup, you need good chemistry. Which it helps to have worked with somebody earlier, somebody from earlier, but you need good chemistry.
Yeah, because you're going to have very deep lows and very big highs on the same day. You should know who you want to share that with.
Yeah, I think you have to go through some tough times together. And in the beginning, the founders give each other moral support. That's important. So the chemistry has to be right.
Interesting. So if you were to, let's say, restart this journey of founding Naukri, let's say you want to look at the job market now, would you do things differently?
Well, in the benefit of hindsight, yes, we would have invested more in technology earlier. We would have, we would have accelerated a lot of the things that we did. But look, we didn't have that knowledge then. So, we did all right. And I can't complain. Yeah.
Of course. You've done very well as part of running that. So someone entering the job market now, wanting to build some products around this space, do you think there is still, space for doing unique things? Because if you look at the industry of HR landscape, and I always say this, that, in the job board market at least, you have Naukri. Honestly, in India, you don't have a number 2 or number 3.
That's taken, see, the truth is internet classifieds is a winner-take-all market. So once somebody wins, they tend to keep on adding traffic share. And that's the nature of the beast. So this has taken 2.5 decades to evolve.
Yeah.
In the beginning, we were the first, and then competition came, and then competition melted away.
It's almost as if that it's a monopolistic environment in the job board market that it's so difficult to even come close.
No, but look, we do have competition.
Of course.
And there are newer competitors emerging. So LinkedIn is there. And there are others who are trying to use AI. Then there are vertical niche sites that are there.
Yes.
Now, having said that, yes, Naukri is in a good position.
I would agree on that part, and only time will say that how it evolves and how it builds forward as part of that entire journey. So if you were to look back on the entire journey, you were awarded the Padma Shri as well. How else would you love to contribute to, let's say, the Indian industry or the ecosystem?
Well, we invest. I think that's a big. We've invested in 120 startups so far. The company has also supported, and I have personally supported Ashoka University.
Yes.
Those kind of contributions. So we've been doing stuff actually.
Lovely to have you, Sanjeev.
Thank you so much.
Always exciting to look at the business side of industry of HR landscape as well. Also, your journey of building something which is so big, yet building it block by block.
Well, so, I get more credit than I deserve. The truth is a lot of the stuff, the credit has to go to other people.
I'm sure, it's you're as good as your team, and they contributing and building, but someone needs to lead as well.
Yeah, I have been out of company operations 2010. Hitesh is the CEO. Okay, but yes, we know a whole bunch of people have contributed along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Lovely.